Hi guys, this is your girl Wakeji Kamore and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. We are about to begin one of my very best books, the book of Nehemiah. It is such a great story, and I hope that you guys are ready to, just dive in and just read about this guy and the amazing things that he did. If you have not done these few things, please pause and do these few things. Number one, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe so that you're able to get notifications for every single episode that goes up. First, subscribe and then hit the notification bell. Then you'll be getting the notifications. Number two, share this, especially because we're about to begin a new book. This is such an interesting book. This is a book that people, that your friends should be listening to. So please share this. This is Nehemiah Chapter 1. So please share this. Number three, if you haven't read Nehemiah chapter 1 for yourself, please pause this recording, read the chapter for yourself, understand what is in the chapter, what's happening in the chapter, and let's get into the book when we have actually made the commitment and we have taken the effort to read the book and the chapter for ourselves before you can listen to the lessons that I have picked from it and the summary for the book. If you've done these things, karibu sana. Let us get into the book of Nehemiah chapter 1. So Nehemiah chapter 1 is a book about Nehemiah. The book itself is written by Nehemiah. You can actually see these are the words of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah. And the story begins with one of the brothers of Nehemiah called Hanani coming to Nehemiah from having taken a trip to Jerusalem and seeing the state that it was in. And so Nehemiah, I'm probably going to be calling this guy Jeremiah because the two of them, just like I really get them mixed up. So Nehemiah asked the brother, what's the state of home? Like what does Judah look like? And the news that came were not necessarily very good news. He was told that the land was in much trouble, that they were having many problems, and they were full of shame because the wall of Jericho was broken down and its gates had been burnt down with fire. Please remember, this was done during the exile. Almost like now 90 years ago, this had been done. Jerusalem had been burnt down. The city had been burnt down. The walls had been burnt down. The gates had been burnt down, but it had never been rebuilt. Even when Ezra had gone back, and the people that actually went back before Ezra, they had not rebuilt the wall. I need us to understand one thing. Number one, it is 13 years or something like that between when Ezra returned to Jerusalem to when Nehemiah is being told this story. So 13 years have passed since the second group of people went back from Babylon to Judah, or from now what is Persia to Judah, from exile to Judah, and the walls of Jericho had not been rebuilt yet. Please, you need to understand why the wall was important. The wall around a city protected the city and the people of the city from invaders. And how well a city was fortified, how well the walls looked like, how well the gate looked like, was a clear indication of the kingdom's success or the city's success. It was a general indication of the state of their prosperity or poverty. And so the reason why these guys are being told that they're in much trouble, they're having many problems, and they're full of shame is because the fact that they have no wall, they have no gate, is a clear indication that this city is not doing well financially. This city is they're in ruins, they're poor people, and they can't even afford to fortify themselves with a wall and a gate. And that is why Nehemiah becomes a very sad person after hearing this news. So who was Nehemiah? Nehemiah was a cupbearer to the king of Persia at that time. And this basically meant that he tasted every food that the king ate, every wine that the king drank, every drink, even water. He tasted everything the king consumed, just so that if it was poisoned, he would die fast. And because of this, he subsequently just became a very respectable advisor of the king because he spent so much time with the king. He was actually almost like second in command because of just how much time he would have to spend with the king. So that is who Nehemiah was. And we go ahead to be told that Nehemiah had this news and he sat down and he cried and he was very sad. He fasted and he prayed to God of the heaven for several days. So one of the things that I want you to note in verse 4, it says that he sat down and he cried and he was very sad. And then again, it continues to say that he fasted and prayed. One of the things that I noticed that sometimes when we are hit with bad news, we cry and weep longer than we pray. As a matter of fact, we cry and weep and have a pity party. We are now become victims. Like we hardly get to a place where we say, okay, now let's pray. Tumepitipati ya kutosha, tumejihurumia ya kutosha, we have cried, we have felt sad. It is time to actually now do something about it and take this matter to the one person who actually can have a solution for this, and that is God. So one of the things I like is the fact that there's a place for being sad. There's a place for weeping. There's a place for feeling, oh my goodness, this is not happening and this can't be happening. But after that, we need to dust ourselves up. We need to lift ourselves up and now get into the act of prayer. And that is what we see Nehemiah doing. He goes before God and he prays. And I like the way he prays because but even just before we get to the prayer, let me just break it down. Nehemiah was not a poor person. The fact that he's a cupbearer means that he's in the upper class. He's not in the slaves. He's not struggling as the other slaves or other people who are in captive are struggling. First, he was not even born in Jerusalem. He'd been born in Babylon, and he'd been raised, and he's now gotten to a place of title, a place of position, a place of status as a cupbearer. So he honestly had no business worrying about these people. He's like, niko na mashida, but mimi niko na job poa. I have a good job. I live a good life. I am almost second in command with this king. I'm the one who advises the king. I am the one who, like he had a good position. He could have just as well decided to go on with his life without really worrying about this. Or he could have heard the news and said, okay, that's sad. Did a one-day prayer and was done and moved on. But Nehemiah was not a self-centered person. He constantly thought of other people more than he thought of himself. He had a heart for others, and hearing about their struggles and other people's problems saddened him, and he was deeply moved by other people's struggles. As Christians, there's this thing that we like to say, that may the Lord help me get moved by the things that move him. And it sounds very nice. It sounds very spiritual. Me, I want to be moved by the things that moves the Lord. I want to be saddened by the things that saddens the Lord. But when you hear those things, you just casually move on. And these are things that we hear on a daily. We hear how many people are dying on a daily. We hear how many people don't even have school fees. We hear how many people are sleeping hungry. We hear about people who are struggling and they are living lives that are so lowly. Even nobody deserves to be living in such a life. But we move on so casually. Yet, those are the things that deeply move God. So when we are praying, may the Lord help me to be moved by the things that move him. I hope we are ready to actually be moved by the things that move him, and not move on casually because your life is doing well, because you have a good job, because you can afford to live well and to eat 3 meals a day. So you move on very casually and very swiftly ukisikia mashida za watu. But then again, we see how he prays, and I like the format of his prayer. He starts by recognizing that the Lord is a great and powerful God. He starts by recognizing that the Lord is a God who keeps his promises, and he has a great love for his people, and especially the people that obey his commands. And then also he goes ahead to confess of his sins, and his confession is really an interesting confession, because remember, Nehemiah was born in Babylon. He was born in this place. He wasn't born in Judah or Jerusalem, where things really just went south before these guys were sent, before his forefathers were sent to Babylon. He didn't live there. He didn't actually make the sins, or rather do the sins that the Israelites committed at that time that led to their captivity. But when he is confessing, he doesn't remove himself. He doesn't say, those ones they did, oh they did, oh they did. He confesses and says, I am confessing that I have sinned against you, and that other people in my father's family have sinned against you. We, the Israelites, doesn't say those Israelites or them, the Israelites. Says we, the Israelites, have become very bad to you. We have not obeyed the command, the rules, and the laws that you gave your Moses servant. And he does not remove himself from the sins of the Israelites. He confesses and also recognizes that even him, he is as sinful as they are. Not just because that his life is good, he wasn't there when all these things were happening, that he is okay. But it's just constantly recognize that we are sinful at every one point. We are sinful. We are sinful people. We are sinful creatures. And then he continues to say that that Israelites are God's servant. Continues to remind God that he actually is a promise keeper, and that he said he would hear them if they cried, and he has not forgotten them, that he has allowed there to be some remnants from this exile. And then he asks God to be kind and to give him or to grant him whatever it is that he will ask for. And this is such an amazing chapter to read, and even just an amazing reaction to the news that he had from his brother. One of the biggest reflection questions that I would want us to think of is, when was the last time that you were really saddened by the state of something that did not concern you? When was the last time you were really saddened? And not less saddened, oh, I'm sad, and then tomorrow you wake up and forget about it and you move on. When we are going to be looking at the next chapter tomorrow, we're going to see that 4 months passed and Nehemiah was still sad. He didn't just get sad and pray about this for one day. He actually continually was sad, and he continually prayed about this for about 4 months. When was the last time you were really saddened by the state of something that did not concern you, like directly concern you? Like wewe uko sawa, maisha yako iko sawa, but you can see someone somewhere, their life is not okay, they are struggling. When was the last time you were deeply concerned and prayed about something for an extended period of time that did not directly concern you? So when we are praying, may the Lord help me to be moved by the things that move him. May we be prepared to actually care. May we be prepared to actually be concerned. May we be prepared to actually pray. And may we be prepared to actually take action, as we will see that Nehemiah took action. Thank you so much for listening, and catching you ujiulize hizo maswali. And may the Lord help us, because me, I'm also included. Kwanza mimi, I'm like those people of me, my life is okay. And I will casually just move on, especially when I feel like a situation is helpless and I just feel helpless. May the Lord help me, because I don't want to just move on casually. I want to actually be moved by the things that move the Lord. I want to be saddened by the things that sadden our God, so that then I can be used as his hands and as his feet to do something and to bring change and impact in people's lives. Thank you so much for listening, and see you tomorrow.